In this lesson, we will talk about what a context analysis involves and which are the key elements that may be useful to analyze to identify the impact a context may have on your security. This lesson focuses particularly on insecure contexts characterized by political or social instability, including armed conflicts within which higher education institutions may be working. In such context, it is essential to understand the operational environment and the underlying political, social, cultural, and economic factors that define it. Knowing the history of the tensions, the dynamics of power, and in the case of violent conflict, who is fighting whom, why, and where, is essential for assessing the risk and therefore reduce it for your own safety. Assessing the context and the risk involved depends upon the gathering of adequate information. Context analysis is a method to analyze the environment in which an individual, an organization, or a business operate. It should answer questions about the political, social, and cultural factors that influence, positively or negatively, the likelihood of conflicts. The security situation, strictly speaking, including the causes of conflict and the implications for your safety, the resources and capacities available, and what might reasonably be expected to be mobilized, the limitations, including logistic, operational, administrative, and cultural constraints that academic activities might be subjected to, and the expected or foreseeable evolution of the overall situation and the implications for your academic activities. Each context, regardless of how it is characterized or defined, is different. Understanding the underlying reasons and root causes for insecurity of a given context can be helpful. They can be numerous, diverse, and complex, and may relate to power, politics, and/or access to resources, including financial, natural, and land. They may have additional dimensions, such as ethnicity or religion. Understanding the history as well as the geographical implications is very important, as those factors influence the entire operational environment. In particular, they will determine which populations are the most vulnerable, their assistance and protection needs. At this point, it is important to remember that security, development, and human rights are strictly interconnected. Moreover, it is also essential to emphasize that any external intervention in a specific context of fragility and weak governance requires special attention on its impact on the well-being of the local population and on the possibility of doing harm rather than good. This means that risk reduction should concern indigenous people as well as students and scholars who travel for study, work, and research purposes. Gaining this understanding will form a key part of a context and risk assessment. Key features to detect in insecure context are the presence of armed actors, which may result in intentional physical and psychological harm, restricted access to people in need, and a high degree of insecurity with its associated emotional impact, denial, suspicion, fear, and panic. The different extent, if any, in which government or indeed the institution you are working with is involved in the conflict. This may pose a challenge to your ability to maintain a real and perceived neutrality and to be seen as impartial and independent. The rapidity of change of the local situation, which may be marked by unpredictable events, resulting in increased and changing needs. Keeping in mind the analysis done, a number of tools are available to thoroughly scrutinize our activity within the context, such as stakeholder analysis to identify the persons, stakeholders, who may be affected positively or negatively by your activity. SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, to assess the pros and cons of your action and to help be realistic about what you can achieve. Conflict analysis. This is a systematic study of the profile, causes, actors, and dynamics of conflict. While all insecure contexts will not necessarily involve violence, some of the challenges they pose to foreigners who travel for academic purposes are often similar to those encountered in environments involving violent conflict. Rather than initiate a conflict analysis on your own, it is recommended that you refer to organizations already present in the area. For instance, the United Nations uses a security level system, SLS, to accurately describe the security environment that exists in an area or location in which it operates. The security level indicates the level of dangers that exists in the defined area on a scale from 1, least dangerous environment, to 6, most dangerous environment. Lastly, as part of their social responsibility, universities must be continuously engaged in working for greater inclusive justice. In conflict-prone areas, any external involvement, including academic programs, is never neutral. Indeed, it can strengthen or weaken peace capacities in local communities. External resources, food, technology, healthcare, training, etc., transferred to a resource-scarce environment represent power and wealth and may become an element of conflict. Some people may attempt to control and use these resources to support their side of the conflict and to weaken the other side. Making sure that local balances are unaffected is a way to prevent possible reasons for the worsening of the conflict. In summary, this lesson has provided some indication on how to reasonably anticipate the security risks present in the hosting context, with due consideration about the likely impact of your intervention on the local population.